We are recording. Thank God for everything. Biblical word study. We're going to study one word at a time. Like we got two words today. We got that abomination, and we got the desolation, the Daniel 9:27 stuff. And I just took off and found every word that I could find with abomination, synonymous with abomination, and synonymous with desolation. So, and we'll try and get through some of this. So as you can see, I start first with the concise dictionaries. I look at Easton's, I look at Fawcett's, the ISBE, International Standard Bible Encyclopedia, and Names is good. Names will give you just about everything where that word is. As you can see, there's a lot in Deuteronomy and Leviticus with the abomination, and the uncleanness and incest, adultery, sodomy. This is all abomination. Unclassified scriptures related to it. So if you got the Names dictionary, that's a good thing to have. And International Bible, we got that, and the concise. So let me close this because I looked at the concise dictionary, and it just gives you some of the verses where the word abomination is used in the Old Testament in reference to any iniquity as viewed by a holy God. It also designates what was unfit to be presented in the service of God, such as an animal without any sort of blemish brought as a sacrifice, the price of a dog being put into the treasury. I spent about 20 minutes looking up dog. That's an interesting read. I mean, somebody calls you a dog, that's the worst thing they can call you back then. And let me look at this real quick. Deuteronomy 17:1. Thou shalt not sacrifice unto the Lord thy God any bullock or sheep wherein is blemish, or any evil favoredness, for that is an abomination to the Lord thy God. And in 23:18 he says, thou shalt not bring the hire of a whore or the price of a dog into the house of the Lord. So he's equating both of them. And some people say the hire of a whore is the female, and the price of a dog is sodomy with homosexuals on that. But that's, you can't prove that. But when they talk about dog, they're talking about something that's like worthless, you know. In the house of the Lord thy God, for any vow, for even both, these are abomination unto the Lord thy God. So I can see how somebody might have said, yeah, this is female and that's male, or homosexuality and all that stuff. But you know, divine service became itself an abomination to God when it had fallen into a mere outward observance, or was in association with iniquity. In Isaiah 1:13, he was pissed off. God, excuse my language. He says, bring no more vain oblations. Incense is an abomination unto me. The new moon and the Sabbaths, the calling of assemblies, I cannot away with it. It's an iniquity, even the solemn meeting. So he wanted nothing. These people did the outward, you know, they worship me with their mouth, but with their hearts are far from me. Proverbs 28:9. He that turneth away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer shall be an abomination. And I'll give you these definitions. And then that's the first thing I should have done, was give you the definition. It's always a good way to start, you know. But idolatry was the special thing that was declared to be an abomination to Jehovah. The idols themselves were thus designated to be abominations. That's 2 Kings 23:13, Isaiah 44:19, and Ezekiel 8 talks about it. It shows the idolatry that was carried on in secret, and the greater abomination of bringing it actually into the inner court of the Lord's house, between the porch and the altar. The Lord was showing them, Ezekiel, he says, they do even worse things. That whole Ezekiel 8 is talking about it. He's showing them around. And he said, "You ain't seen nothing yet. Look at this." And these were the guys that had their backs to the altar and they were facing the sun. So that was the first sunrise service. Ezekiel 8. They in between the porch and the altar. This word is seldom used in the New Testament and applies then to wickedness in general. Excuse me for that. Abominations, the things that are hateful to God. Let me put this up here. I should just give you the definitions. Yeah, I'm going to start with that. Let me give you some definitions, and then we'll go through these pages. But some of the definitions, the big one here for abomination would be this 84:41. Toeba. You can almost see taboo in there. And it's a particle of part of 85, 81, ta'ab. And that means to abhor, abominable. So this is abomination, abominable thing, abominable. And the TWOT is 2530. And there's like 100 and some odd verses here with this. Actually, RSV renders it as loathe in Isaiah 14:19, which we read, right? Did we read that? No. Okay, let me put it up here. But thou art cast out of that grave like an abominable branch, and as the raiment of those that are slain, thrust through with the sword, that go down to the stones of the pit. That's a carcass trodden underfoot. And 107:18 in Psalms, their soul abhorreth all manner of meat, and they draw near unto the gates of death. I'm not going to get through this. Oh, man. But I'm going to pass by all of this stuff here about abhor, loathe, the physical sense, detest, exclude, ritual, ethical, two meanings coalesce with rituals, any event, commit abominable, detestable deeds. Take a look at all these verses. Be loathsome, detestable, and toeba, abominable, abomination, thing of horror, as it reads in the RSV in Psalms 88:8. Thou hast put away mine acquaintance far from me. Thou hast made me an abomination unto them. I am shut up and cannot come forth. Toeba. Oh, this is bad. But there's another one here. No, that's still okay. We're good. We're good. The frequency of this word attests to its importance. It occurs 117 times. Man. And for the abominations of desolation, see under the root, shakas. So we're going to go to shakas. And we'll look at that one right now. And that would be 8263. 8263. Abominable. Shakat. It comes from 8262. So the masculine noun that's got like 11 times in the Bible. Detestable thing, or idle, an unclean thing, an abomination, a detestation, and shakats, the verb, is abomination, abominable. So we'll look at 2459 and see what we come up with here. Shikes is used 7 times in a pill. Be spotted, unclean, found in close association with shakas, tame, make unclean, ta'ab, which we just looked at, which means abhor. And the verb shakas is used both in the sense of consider abhorrent, detestable, and in the causative make abominable and contaminate. And you'll find these in Leviticus when it talks about they shall be even an abomination unto you. You shall not eat their flesh, but you shall have their carcasses in abomination. He's going through what's all the clean and unclean animals back in the Old Testament. And these are they which you shall have an abomination among the fowls that should not be eaten. And they are an abomination, the eagle, the ossifrage, and the osprey. So he's just given the laws of what they can and cannot eat. In the latter passage, the one eating the abominable foods is said to make himself abominable in the sight of God. The object of abhorrence may be the forbidden foods as above, or the abomination, the to'eba, which is an idol. And in one beautiful song of praise, the psalmist says of God, he has not despised nor abhorred the affliction of the afflicted. Not despised, bazar, nor abhorred, shakats, the affliction of the afflicted. Neither had he hid his face from him. When he cried unto him, he heard. Shekes is a detestable thing. In contrast to shikush, shekes is not necessarily related to idolatry, but rather is mostly used in reference to unclean or forbidden foods. And you'll get that all through Leviticus 11. All right. Shikus is a detestable thing or an idol. Okay. This noun is always used in connection with idolatrous practices, either referring to the idols themselves as being abhorrent and detestable in God's sight, or to something associated with the idolatrous ritual. Idols generally are referred to as an abomination. You'll see that in Jeremiah 16:18, Ezekiel 5, you'll read all about that. And Ezekiel 6, he gets into it. All right, and Ezekiel 7. So, the whole thing there. And then, of course, in Ezekiel 8, he talks about it also, too. But they that worship them become detestable like they which they love, for they identify themselves with the idol. Hosea 9:10. I found Israel like grapes in the wilderness. I saw your fathers as the first ripe and the fig tree at our first time. But they went to Baal Peor and separated themselves unto that shame, and their abomination were according as they loved. And Moses even told them in Deuteronomy, you're going to go out, you're going to do these things, you're going to fall away. And of course, Antiochus Epiphanes, as prophesied in Daniel 11:31, who is a typical of Antichrist, set up an altar to an image of Zeus in the temple, which is called the abomination that causes desolation, a desecration of the altar which destroys its true purpose. Just so will Antichrist establish an abomination in the sanctuary. And that's a future, something that's coming up in the future. And the spiritual is going to be coming up in this Daniel 11 and Daniel 9 is the very image. And we're going to look at these verses a little more succinctly here. And the abominable filth, Nahum 3:6. I will cast abominable filth upon thee, and will make thee vile, and will set thee as a gazing stock. I don't know if you can hear Sam. He's out there crying. He wants to come in, but I'm going to ignore him for now. God's own people need to view sin from God's perspective. In Deuteronomy 7:26, neither shalt thou bring in an abomination into thine house, lest thou be a cursed thing, like it. But thou shalt utterly detest it, and thou shalt utterly abhor it, for it is a cursed thing. Come in. So you got abomination here. The Toeba. I can't. If he's going to come in, I'm going to have to close the door, and then he's going to cry to come out. Why is he close the door? All right. Neither shalt thou bring an abomination into the house, lest thou be a cursed thing. And the karem, we studied this karem. That's the thing devoted, and in the New Testament it will be the korban. When a child says, "I can't give you a gift," it's korban. It's something that's dedicated to the temple. So actually, it's something that has to be destroyed or sacrificed. But they were very greedy. When you look up korban and this word here, karem, you'll see what we studied that. And shall be utterly detest. Shakats, which is what we're looking at now. And you shall utterly abhor, which is what we looked at a few minutes ago. Ta'ab. For it is a cursed thing. That's the karem. Let me get another word here. 6292. I give you all the words that I got for abomination, and then we'll get back to the abomination of desolation. Pigul. Yeah, I hear you. From an unused root meaning to stink. TWOT 1730. Abomination. Foul thing. Refuse. As you can see, there's 3 or 4 verses here. And if any of the flesh of the sacrifice of his peace offering be eaten at all on the 3rd day, it shall not be accepted. Neither shall it be imputed unto him that offered it. It shall be an abomination, and the soul that eateth of it shall bear his iniquity. Leviticus 7:18. And if it be eaten at all on the 3rd day, it's an abomination. So he's talking about eating something after it shouldn't be eaten. And Isaiah 65:4, which remain among the graves and lodge in the monuments, which eat swine's flesh and broth of abominable things in their vessels. And that's what Antiochus did in the temple way back then. Actually, after this, sorry. Then said I, Lord God, behold, my soul hath not been polluted from my youth up, even till now. I have not eaten of that which dieth of itself, or is torn in pieces, neither came there abominable flesh to my mouth. I think Peter even the same thing. Let me see if Peter comes up here. Maybe it's in here. Acts. Yeah, here we go. Acts 10:14. Then Peter said, "Not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything common or unclean." So he knew the law. All right, that was a quickie on that one. And we looked at, let me just give you the rest of the numbers for the shakats, and shakuts. 8263, 8262, that's two, and 8251. 8251. So this 63 is shakets. That's the masculine noun. Abomination, abominable. 62 is the verb. It's six times. It's abomination, abominable, abhor, utterly detest. And 8251 is shikuts. It's the masculine noun. Abomination, detestable things, detestable. And I think this is the one that's the abomination of desolation. We'll see when we get to it. So that's the TWOT 2459, if you're taking notes. All right. Okay. And then we have another one here that I came across, 887. 887. I think I looked at this real quick before. Yeah, this made me to stink. Stank, stink, stunk, stink, utterly abhor. They stank, abhorred, odious, stink. So you get the idea. Loathsome, stinketh. And this is Ba'ash, TWOT 195. I'm not going to go through that. I'm just giving it to you here. And then 959. 959. Despise. Bazaar. Despise, contemptible, contempt, disdain, vile person. I don't know why this came up, but it came up. 224. Shows that disobedience to the Lord is based on contempt or despising of Him. I guess that could be an abomination, right? Thus, David's adultery with Bathsheba is equated with contempt for the Lord. 2 Samuel 12:10. Now, therefore, the sword shall never depart from thine house, because thou hast despised me, and hast taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be thy wife. Thou hast despised me. Bazar. All right. I'm not going to read all this. I'll just pass through here. There's no bibliography. Okay. All right. And then another word here is, let's do this 1604. We'll stay in the Old Testament for now. 1604 in the Hebrew. That's one time, huh? It's Goal, and it's comes from 1602. 1602. That's loathing in 1602 is Gaal, abhor, loathe, cast away, fail. All right? And there's 9 verses here. But this Ezekiel 16:5 has the masculine noun. None I pitieth thee to do any of these things unto thee, to have compassion upon thee. But thou wast cast out in the open field to the loathing of thy person in the day that thou was born. Ezekiel 16. Read that in context to figure out what that's talking about. But this not abhor you, and the verb usually gives you a lot of good stuff. The root indicates an intense aversion, which is expressed often in punitive or adverse action. If Israel kept the Lord's law, the Lord would not abhor them, but continue to dwell with them. I mean, that's the whole thing. And this Leviticus 26, Leviticus and Deuteronomy 28, um, it's all talking about this cursing and the blessing. You obey me, and you'll be all right. You disobey me, and I'll destroy you. I'll scatter you. 26:15. And if you shall despise my statutes, or if your soul abhor my judgments, so that you will not do all my commandments, but that you shall break my covenant. And then he goes on to tell what's going to do. He said, I will destroy your high places. The land shall be left of them, they shall endure. That's it. So he just went on to, I don't know why Deuteronomy's not in there. Probably in another one. And the judgment predicted in Leviticus 26 finds fulfillment in the time of Jeremiah, who used this word to describe the Lord's attitude towards Israel when he afflicted them in accordance with the cursing formula of the covenant. The abhorrence of the sanctity of marriage obligations is the root from which arises progressively deeper transgressions, illustrated by the worsening spiritual state of the daughters Sodom and Jerusalem, in comparison with their father, the Hittite, and their mother, the Amorite. So that was a degradation when he called that your father's a Hittite and your mother's an Amorite. David implies that the vile death of Saul and Jonathan is inconsistent with their status, except that rejection of God may result in that kind of death. And then God did kill him. It was nuts towards the end. Saul, on your mountains of Gilboa, let there be no dew, neither let there be rain upon you, nor fields of offerings, for there the shield of the mighty is vilely cast away, and the shield of Saul as though he had not been anointed with oil. So he did some evil stuff. That's why God took the throne from him and gave it to David. Not only that, because he was of the wrong tribe anyway. He's from Benjamin, and the scepter shall not depart from Judah. So he had to give it to David. So he set the whole thing up, for Saul to get it and to rebel and to be cast out. Some of these writers have Saul going to hell. But I don't think so. You can't be the Lord's anointed and you go to hell. It's simple as that. So somewhere along the line, he had to repent. I mean, I even read some of these guys. I forget who it was. It was Pink or somebody else that thinks Adam went to hell. I don't know. I can't see that. But I don't know. But that wouldn't enter my mind. And I got another one here, 3988. Just giving these here. 3988. Despise my statutes. Ma'as. Despise, refuse, reject, abhor, become loathsome. 1139, I believe, is the big one here. Yeah, reject, despise. What's this? 1140. No. Okay, so let's throw up 1139. See what happens here. There's 69 verses. Leviticus 26 again. Okay. Loathsome, cast away, despised, disdain, abhor, despised, melt away, greatly abhorred. It's one word. And you see what the English does? All you had to do was mas, despise. But they have to throw their own little spin on here. Despise, cast away, refuse, despise, cast away, rejected, despise, reprobate silver, shall men call them, because the Lord had rejected them. And we can throw that in the cross reference, and it'll probably come up in Romans. I'm just curious, oh man, I see here it is. Nope, that's not it. Okay. But that reprobate, you know what I'm talking about, reprobate silver. Adokimas. I couldn't think of the word. Adokimas, that's the word. All right. Refuse. Rejecting them. Rejected the Lord. So it's going a little bit away from abomination, but it's all connected. Abomination. All right. So that's that. TWOT 1139. If you're taking notes, and let me see. There's more in the Old Testament. I got into the loathing and despising and abhorring a little bit too much, but let's put it down there anyway. 06973. 06973. Coots, abhor, weary, loathe, distress. Uh, and that's TDOT 2002. Uh, Rebecca complained to Isaac that she loathed her life because of Esau's wives. If she's telling the truth, perhaps their strange ways had so irritated her that her life had become unbearable. Yeah, she didn't want her son going with these people. Uh, but Esau did. And she told Jacob, I don't want you going. Go to see my what was it, brother-in-law or uncle or a cousin or something over there, Laban. At least this is probably what Isaac believed. It is such an irritation and loathing that is forbidding toward God's fatherly reproof. The word describes God's feeling towards the Canaanites and toward all idolatry. So that's why Rebecca was complaining about it. She didn't want her sons to go with these idolaters. Israel used it to describe their feelings towards the manna after prolonged feeding on it. In Numbers 21, several peoples are describing as having such an irritating abhorrence of Israel, which is still going on today. And Israel felt the same towards her enemies. So that's grieved, weary, abhorred, weary. Uh, and then another one. I'm not going to spend too much time on these. I'm just throwing them at you. 6292. It's close to this one, but it's not the same thing. 6292. It's no wait. Oh, that was good. I think we looked at that already, but 1730. Did we look at that? Yeah, we looked at that. But I got dyslexic here. It's 6962. 6962. I was wondering because I know it was grieved, abhorred, loathed, coot. Like I said, it was close to that coots, but this is coot, and it's TOT 1996. Grieve, loathe, um, deep emotional reaction of the subject, issuing in a desired repulsion or destruction of the object. In the midst of his affliction, Job says he is so distressed and irritated that he loathes his life. He loathed the day he was born. Sarah's statement, she also says this, and Rebecca said to Isaac, I am weary of my life because of the daughters of Heth. If Jacob take a wife of the daughters of Heth, and you'll find that, and we just looked at that in the coots, in the other word. It's basically the same thing. Enemies of God. So what we got here. So yeah, Hebrews. The last reference is relevant to the restoration, of course, but it was especially meaningful in the age of fulfillment. In Hebrews 8:8, finding fault with him, he says, Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. So we got to look forward to here. True repentance and contrition come from God's work in the heart of Paul, as Paul reveals it in Romans 7 and 8. And then eventually the two sticks are going to come together. And they did already. And we're getting close here. Uh, and the two Greek words, I got some more Hebrew words here, meaning to repulse. Real quick, let me give it to you, 1860. 1860. They shall go forth and look upon the carcasses of the men that have transgressed against me, for their worm shall not die, neither shall their fire be quenched, and they shall be an abhorring unto all fish or flesh. They're our own. They're our own. Abhorring, contempt, yeah, to repulse. TWOT 450, aversion. It's 2 times here in the Bible. We're going to read them. And of course, Daniel 12 too. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. They're our own. And of course, this one here, you can find this in Matthew. Matthew 9, I think it is, or Mark 9. It's Mark 9. Where the worm dieth not and the fire is not quenched. And if thy foot offend thee, cut it off. Better to enter life halt than having 2 feet be cast into hell, the fire that shall never be quenched. Asbestos. And the worm dieth not, the fire is not quenched. So that's good. And this last one I'm going to look at in the Old Testament is 21:94. 4. Defy, angry. Za'am, indignation, defy, abhor, angry. TWOT 568. Basic ideas: experiencing or expressing intense anger. The verb is used to indicate both the state of being indignant and the activity giving expression to that state. So both of them. And is used in reference to man, but more often to God. Isaiah foretells a day when God's indignation will be experienced by Israel's enemies. In Numbers 23:7-8, Za'am is used in parallel with verbs ara, nakab, kabat. We're not going to look at all of that. When he tells them to curse, anger, indignation, noun is used 22 times, regularly translated indignation, referring more often to God than to man. Za'am is used in parallel with Gasap. And Jeremiah states that the earth shall tremble at God's wrath, Sep, and the nation shall not be able to bear his indignation. Jeremiah 10:10. The earth shall tremble, and the nation shall not be able to abide. Who his indignation? Za'am. Psalms 102:11. My days are like a shadow that declineth. I am withered like grass. 21. I'm looking for the word here. I don't see it. Withered like grass. Must have a misprint here. I'm not going to go search for it now. Psalm 102:11. I don't even see it over here. So, we get it. All right. Now, the other one here in the Greek is 946 and 948. 946 and 948. 948. And you see the abomination, Medalugma, and 948. So that's the neuter noun. This is the verb, abhor, bedeluso, from presumed derivative bedeo. And we get the word bidet from that, I guess. That means to stink, to abhor, to render foul. And did I pull the book down? Yeah, I did. But I got a lot of stuff in the margin, so I don't know if I want to read all of this. Let me just get the last 946. Nah, I'm not going to read this. If you got the theological dictionary, it's only a short read. It's like 3 pages, 2.5 pages. What's the other word? 946, 948, and 947. 947. And this is abominable. All right. And this would be Beteluktos. One time in the Bible, they profess that they know God, but in works they deny him, being abominable and disobedient to every good word. Reprobate is that word, reprobate. Adokimash. Cast away. All right. Not tried in the fire, man. No testing. Romans 2:22. Thou that sayest a man should not commit adultery, dost thou commit adultery? Thou that abhorrest idols, dost thou commit sacrilege? And Revelation 21:8. But the fearful and unbelieving and the abominable, the murderers, whoremongers, sorcerers, idolaters, liars, all have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. We don't want that second death. Everybody dies once. But these vessels of wrath die twice. And this, do I have the dogs in here too? What happened to the dogs? Probably the dogs. But without our dogs, sorcerers, whoremongers, murderers, idolaters, and whosoever loveth to maketh a lie. 22:15. So they added the dogs in here later in 22:15. And it's not good to call a dog, man. And this abomination, and we'll get into the desolation now. We'll get the words on desolate. Let me get this out of the way. And yeah, I can use this a little later here. Let me see. Was there something else here? This means abhor. Oh, in 655, I think it's one or two verses here. Yeah, one verse. Let love be without dissimulation. Abhor that which is evil and cleave to that which is good. So abhor. Apostugo. Apostugeo. Apostugeo comes from apo, of course, and stugnatos. Stugnatos means hateful or hated or detestable. 47, 67. It's also one time in the Bible. So you got apostugo, comes from stugo. And let me put this last verse up here. For we ourselves also were sometimes foolish, disobedient, deceived, serving diverse lusts and pleasures, living in malice and envy, hateful and hating one another. Hateful and hating one another. Miseo. Yeah, we were like that. Yeah. And that finishes that one up. But this abomination, let me do some more. The desolation, and we'll get back to the abomination. Abomination that makes desolate. We got those verses there. But this here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on this one TWOT. My voice actually got better. 80, 47, 47. Astonishment. Shamam. Okay, we're going to go 80, 74. 80, 74. These are all connected here. Desolate. Desolation. 80, 47, 80, 77. 80, 77. That's desolate. 80, 76. 80, 76. Desolate. And 30. No, that's not connected. 49, 23. That's the M of 49, 23. That's the Meshama, something like that. Yeah, Meshama means desolate or astonishment, and it comes from 8074. And this 8076 is shamem. It's an adjective, and it comes from 8074, and it means desolate. There's two verses there. 8077 is shemama, and it comes from 8076, and it means desolate, desolation, waste. And then you have 8074 is shamem. That's the big verb here. And it means desolate, astonished, desolation. And of course, feminine noun is shama, astonishment. That's it. So when you do this, we're going to close these out here. All right. And just see where this brings us. Waste, horror, appalment, horror, a feeling of inner desolation at the prospect of divine judgment. And that's the Shimeon here. More, he said unto me, Son of man, behold, I will break the staff of bread in Jerusalem, and they shall eat bread by weight and with care, and they shall drink water by measure and with astonishment. Shimeon. Well, that's the one I didn't have here. 8078. That's a new one. Hold on. 8078. Oh, 8078. That's a masculine noun. Okay. That's a new one on us. And in 12:19 he says, and say unto the people of the land, thus saith the Lord of the inhabitants of Jerusalem, of the land of Israel, they shall eat their bread with carefulness and drink their water with astonishment. Shimeon. And the land, that a land may be desolate. This is the one here. Oh, wait a second. That's a 927. Yeah, but that's on my list. Okay. From all that is therein, because of the violence of all them that dwell therein. Obey God, you're fine. Disobey him, this is what's going to happen. This is famine here. Drinking water with measure and with astonishment. Trying to look for the other word here. Just got that one here. So that's what this is, Shimeon, horror. And we're going to get into this other one here. This, what was it, 3456. I got that on my list somewhere. All right. And devastation, horror. So I will stretch out my hand upon them and make the land desolate. This is all about him being angry at us not obeying him. Make the land desolate, yea, more desolate than the wilderness toward the Diblath in all their inhabitants. And they shall know that I am the Lord. Make the land desolate, 8077. More desolate, Meshama, and the wilderness. That's another word there, but I didn't get into that too much. When you talk about wilderness, that's desolation also. Midbar. For I will lay the land most desolate. In Ezekiel 33. And the pomp of her strength shall cease, and the mountains of Israel shall be desolate, that none shall pass through. So this is a noun here, a feminine noun, shemamah, and then we go down to the verb here, shemem, and make it desolate. As you can see, it's over 195 times here. Ezekiel 15, astonishment of the nations. Let me see what this word is. Astonishment is 49:23. That's the Meshema, right? Yeah, Meshema. So it shall be a reproach and a taunt and an instruction and an astonishment unto the nations. So when they look, they'll know this is an instruction. Musa. instruction, correction, chastisement. Yasa means to chastise and instruct, correct, chasten, discipline. Unto the nations that are round about thee, when I shall execute judgments in thee in anger and in fury and in furious rebukes. I, the Lord, have spoken it. And he did. The money, he's bringing them back. Some great disaster, usually as a result of divine judgment. The verb harab, with its derivatives, is frequently found in close association with shamam, which is harab. I don't see harab here. All right. All right. This may be due to divine judgment, but not at all necessarily so. In the case of shamam, heat or dryness is not inherent in the root, but rather it describes the result of disaster and judgment. So that's what all these verses are about. Desolation most frequently applies to places and things. The book of Daniel has 4 passages employing the polel form of the verb, meshomem and shomem. There is a causative or better factive force, whatever that means, here, similar to the use of the hifil, which is another form of the verb, except that the hifil generally involves a physical devastation, where the polel, which is another form of the verb, seems to put more stress on the fact that someone has caused the sanctuary or the altar to be polluted, thus rendering it unfit for the worship of the service of God. And these passages that we're going to look at in Daniel 8, 11, 9:27, and 12:11. In the first 2, Antiochus Epiphanes is depicted as doing away with the proper sacrifices. And in Daniel 11:31, as setting up an abomination or a shikus, generally understood to be an idol or a pagan altar. And we know what he did. He took everything. And he took put up a Christmas tree. He's eating swine's flesh and having them drink swine's blood and all that stuff. In this activity, he foreshadows the Antichrist, as described in 9:27 and 12:11. Jesus refers to the coming idolatrous practices of Antichrist by the term the abomination of desolation in Matthew 24:15 and Mark 13:14. The presence of this abomination in the sanctuary makes it desolate, unfit for proper worship. And the Maccabees had to come in and throw him out. In just a few special instances, people are the objects of the devastation. Just Jeremiah. Jeremiah speaks of himself as having been torn to pieces and made desolate in Lamentations 3:11. This is obviously figurative language. There are 3 passages in which a woman is referred to as desolate. In Isaiah 62:4, God says that when he redeems Israel, his people will no longer be called a woman that is forsaken and desolate. But rather, Hephzibah, my delight is in her, and Beulah, which means married, similar to Isaiah 54:1. I wanted to get to this other thing, TBNT3. What is that? 29 to 36, TBNT3. 29. Let's see what the word here in the Greek. 29, 23, 29. Thalma. THAUMA. 2295. 2295. Where'd you get that from? 2296. Admiration. 2296. Marveled. Probably astonished or something. 2297. 97. Wonderful things. And 2298. 8. Wonder why they have that down here. All right. So, yeah, I guess it's a marvelous thing. It's on the being desolate wilderness, on a desolate place, high places, in case of doing and you, place of torn, make desolate, people that are forsaken, desolation. So, why the person was reading PDNT3, I don't know. Shamem. Okay, I see where it's coming from now. And Tama. All right, 8074. Yeah. Okay, I guess you can do that. You can stretch it that far. Okay, never mind. Let me get out of here. But this it sent us to this word here. This I didn't even look at them. Thama. Admiration, a wonderful thing, a marvelous thing. What was the other one? 95, 96, 96. Marveled is Thomadzo. Marvel, wonder, admiration. 2298. Marvelous. Thomastos. Marvelous. Yeah, so you get the idea. And let me see. So this 3456. 3456 is Yasham. EOT 927. There's 4 verses here. Desolation, waste, desert, desolate. Yashaman is the river occurred 18 times. I got I got 4 of them here. The root is primarily concerned with the desolate condition of arid land during the years of famine at the time of Joseph. 47, 19, the land be not desolate. Ezekiel 6, particular destruction was directed at the high places, the quiet groves, where the lush and refreshing of altars, fertility gods were erected. In Ezekiel 6, and then the Exodus, desolation, long days for wilderness. Just read these verses here. 6. In all your dwelling places, the city shall be laid waste, the high places shall be desolate, and your altars may be laid waste and made desolate, and your idols may be broken and cease, and your images may be cut down, and your works may be abolished. Laid waste. It's another one. Kareb. I think we looked at that. Oh, there's the Harab. There it is. Yeah. Okay. High place shall be desolate, shall be laid waste and made desolate. Another one is Asham, guilty, desolate. Has more to do with guilt than being desolate, but I guess if you're guilty, you're desolate too, right? And your idols may be broken. Your image is cut down. Gada. And your works abolished. Makah, to blot out, destroy, wipe out. And 12:19, and say unto the people of the land, thus saith the Lord God of the inhabitants of Jerusalem, the land of Israel, they shall eat their bread with carefulness. We read this already. And drink their water with astonishment. That was the 8078. That was the Shimeon. And the land may be desolate of all that is therein because of the violence of them that dwell therein. And Ezekiel 19:7. And he knew their desolate places. Oh, this has to do with the widow here. Almanah, widow, desolate house, desolate place. That's forsaken. Alman, 103, 105. I'm not going to get into all of that. And laid waste in the cities, and the land was desolate, and the fullness thereof by the noise of the roaring. And that's the 35. Now I got another word here. There's a couple more, but let me do this last thing here with these verses. Now I forget what the other one was. I got them down here somewhere. Wait a second. Whoops. Let me get rid of this. And this, I don't need this. This is wasted. Rush. Desolation. Okay, this is the Greek. Let me look at this trade this real quick. Eremuo is bring to desolation, desolate come to naught. And it comes from 2048, which is the wilderness. Okay. But the 2050 here is also eremosis, which is desolation. And that comes from the 2049, making desolate. So these are basically the two that I wanted to look at. And these are the phrases that have to do with the abomination of desolation when you're talking about that in Daniel. And house divided against itself. Let's do Revelation 17 and 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, they shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. And we know who the 10 horns are. Those are the 10 northern tribes. They gave their power over to the beast because of what? Because of disobedience. But they're going to hate the whore. They'll go along with her for an hour, but then they're going to turn on her. So that's going to be Israel, spiritual Israel. They shall make her desolate and naked, shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. And 18:17, for 1 hour so great riches has come to naught, the beast and every shipmaster and all the company and ships and sailors, and as many as trade by the seas stood afar off. And they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas, the great city wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness. For 1 hour she is made desolate. Right? So that's what's going to happen. And this Matthew 24:15 goes back to Daniel 9:27. I forget what the other one was. 8:11 and 13, and 11:31 and 12:11. I'm going to skip back to those. There's something else in the back of my mind here. I don't know what I'm being distracted with here. Kobah. Oh, that's desolation. Karab. All right, I'm not going to give it. Yeah, this one verse there. What was it? Job. Where was it? Come on, man. I had it circled. Oh, Job 30:3. Let me just read this quick. Job 30:3. Because I had a bunch of verses in it, a bunch of words, all synonymous. So 30:3? Yeah, 30:3. That was in the back of my mind here. For want and famine, they were solitary, fleeing into the wilderness in former time, desolate and waste. So you got the famine in here, kafan, and solitary, and galmud, solitary, desolate, barren, bleak. We looked at this into the wilderness, Siyah, dry land, wilderness, Siyah, dryness, desert, former time, desolate, show. That was on my list. I don't think I gave it to you. Show, desolation, destruction, 23:39. We didn't look at that. destruction, desolation. I'll give it to you here real quick. You want to take notes on that? 2339 in the TWOT, 7722, and then waste is Meshoah, and it's part of this show here. That's part of the 7722 show, and you got the M in front of it. That's Meshoah. That's 2339. It's waste and desolation. So that's one verse. I had 3 or 4 good words in it, and I just jotted it down and circled it on it. So that's good. Now I can move on. All right. Oh wait, what's this? 1565. Real quick, 1565. I think it is 1565. Yeah, that's the solitary. And yeah, there's Job 30 and 3 there. And 1563. 1563. Just want to get these out of the way. Wrapped together. There's a mantle. 354. Wrapped together. Embryo, hard, barren. Yeah. 1565. 354 also. They wrapped it together and spoke the waters, and they were divided hither and thither. So these are connected. All right. So, and let me get this. So these are the verses here, that have to do with the abomination of desolation here. We know the 70 weeks of Daniel, right? We don't have to really go through that whole 70 weeks of Daniel. I mean, that's a several day study. But we can start with 924. He says, 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city. 1, to finish the transgression. 2, to make an end of sins. 3, to make reconciliation. 4, to bring in everlasting righteousness. 5, to seal up the vision of prophecy. And 6, to anoint the most holy. And know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem, and when was that? That was in Nehemiah, right? Nehemiah 2, I think it was 444 BC, to restore and build Jerusalem unto Messiah the Prince. When he came in on the young colt of an ass, in Luke 19, and they were laying the palm branches down in front of him 4 days before he was to be murdered. It shall be 7 weeks, 62 weeks. So that's 69 weeks. 27, 28, 29, 69. The street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times. And I've tried to understand what that is. Did that happen already, or did it? I know they had troublous times when they were trying to build it. In his day and age, when Ezekiel and Nehemiah and Ezra. And that's troublous times when they were building the wall. I mean, they were putting on the bricks and the mortar with one hand, and they had the sword and everything else on the other hand. So that's the street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times. We know that happened during Ezra and Nehemiah. But after 62 weeks, shall Messiah be cut off, and that's when he was crucified, but not for himself. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with the flood, and the end unto the end of the war. Desolations are determined. See if I can get this in here. Desolations, 8074. Shamem are determined. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. All right. So you're talking about the 70th week, which it hasn't happened yet. The 69 weeks already passed. And we're just waiting for that 70th week. And then he shall confirm. Let me put this in. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week and in the midst of the week. So you're talking about the 3.5 weeks, right? You're talking about the 42 months. You're talking about the 1,260 days. So this in the midst of the week, that's half of the week on a 360-day Jewish calendar. He shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations, give me these words, overspreading of abominations, 8251, that's the shikuts. We covered that earlier. He shall make it desolate. So you got the two words that we should be looking at, that we looked at, shikuts and shamem. Even to the consummation, and I got these down, kala. Oh, I'm not going to look at that right now. And that determined these two words together. Kala, karat. They go together in a lot of verses. The consummation and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate, and that's the same word, shamem. Wow. Okay, so that's Daniel 9, 24 to 27, talking about the 70 weeks of Daniel, which Jim's got hundreds of tapes on the 70 weeks of Daniel, and we just give you a quick synopsis here in like 2 minutes, which doesn't give it justice, And then the 8:11, let me get over here. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host. And this is Antiochus Epiphanes. And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, how long shall the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? And what does he say here? And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. So I don't know how this 2,300 days comes in. And you'll see another one where it says 1,350 days. But we know that the middle of the week is 1,200 and what is it, 1,260, right? Well, 42 months, or 3.5, or a times, and a dividing a time, or a times and a half. And you'll see all of these in Revelation. I mean, I gave it to you way back when, but I have it written down here. If you're going to go to, okay. So you got 42 months, 1,260 days, 3.5 years, or 3.5 days, a time, a times and a half, a time, a times, and a dividing a time. So that's that's the 5 phrases that talk about the splitting up of the last week of time, and that is the last week of time. And it's all in Revelation. Most of it's in Revelation. Some of it is in Daniel right here. What was the other one? 11, 9 and 11. Let me get this out of here. 11. I'm jumping around here. Hold on a second. 11:31. Okay. No, let me go to 9:27. We did that already. And we did 8, 11, and 13, and then 11 and 31. And arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and they shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. And that's what they're going to do. There's the sacrifice and the oblation, and that goes to the priest and the king. who offers sacrifice? The priest. All right. And we give the oblation. The oblation is done in the morning and the afternoon. So and the priest judges righteous judgment, and the priest offers a sacrifice, an acceptable sacrifice, and that's us. We're priests and kings. So the sacrifice and the oblation shall cease. They're going to tell us we can't do this anymore. They're going to shut us down from telling the truth. And the abomination, the shekutz that makes Shamem desolate. And then Daniel 12:11. And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, shall be 1,290 days. And but he that waiteth and cometh to the 1,305 and 30 days. Now I can't. There's so many different commentaries on what these dates mean, but we know if you talk about a bunch of years here, you can fit this just about anywhere, any place in history. So I'm not going to do that. Well, we got to do some more study on this. I know Jim has a lot of stuff on this, but I'm not going to speculate on what these dates mean here. Some people do. The angel communicated. I know some guys I read they talked about times in history. Death of the Messiah, abomination. Well, this guy's got Antiochus, so he shall be 1,290 days. If this is to be taken literally, it could be 3 years and 210 days, reckoning the year at the 360 days, which it is reckoned by, and is 30 days more than 3 years and a half referred to in Daniel 12:7. So in Daniel 12:7, it talks about the 1260, right? Throughout time, times and a half, 12:7. Let me put that up here. And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was on the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swear by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a times and a half. So that's 3.5. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. Time is to be taken literally. That passage refers exclusively to Antiochus Epiphanes. Well, it does refer to him, but not exclusively. Explains the application of the language in the following manner. Antiochus took away the daily sacrifice, as is here declared. And this was the latter part of May 168 BC. Profane history does not indeed give us the day, but it designates the year and the season, as we already seen. About 3.5 years elapsed after the temple worship was entirely broken up, before Judas Maccabeus expurgated the temple and restored its rights, and that's where we get Hanukkah from. The terminus ad quem is not mentioned. There's terminus a quo, terminus a quem. One is when it starts and one is when it ends. It's not mentioned in the verse now before us, but still it is plainly implied. The end of 1,290 days must, of course, be marked by some signal event, just as the commencement of them is so marked, and as the suppression of the temple rights constitutes the definitive mark of the commencement, so it would seem plain that the restoration of the same rights must mark the conclusion of the period, which is designated. And the time of the end, I don't know, this guy gets into something here. Let me see. If it gets into any historical parts here. This guy's got 148 BC. Well, he's totally off on that. Um, so I'm not even going to stay here with this guy. Napoleon was but these guys are getting into Napoleon. 1290 reached 1822. So all of these guys try to. And Poole stays quiet on this. He knows better. Um, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. Whoso readeth, let him understand, and let them which be in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of the house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe to them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. But pray ye that your flight be not in winter, neither on the Sabbath day. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world, nor to this time, nor ever shall be. And except those days shortened, there shall be no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Then if any man say unto you, lo, here is Christ, forget about the false Christs and the false preachers and all that stuff. That's Matthew 24. And it'll close with Mark 13 and 4. Well, it's the same thing. But he's got, let me get this out of here. I don't want to get into too much with these commentaries, but you can read some of these commentaries if you get the books. You got Barnes, you got Poole. Those are two good guys. And the other guy, Matthew Henry, if you can get his books, they're good. Matthew Henry, Matthew Poole, and Barnes. I think Barnes is a little Roman Catholic, but that's okay. He gets some stuff right. Standard holy place. No, I'm not going to read all of this here. You get it. But when you shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing where it ought not. So we had the type, we had the Antiochus Epiphanes. Epiphanes. He was the type for a future event that's going to happen. Now it could be physical, it could be, but it's going to definitely be spiritual. When they tell us that we can't do our sacrifice and oblation, when it's going to be taken away. It's the same thing. Okay, and then Luke 21. I like Luke's take on this. Because he goes into when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is none. That could be today. That could be any time in history. Okay. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them that are in the midst of it depart out. And let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. And we're coming up on this. But woe to them that are with child, to them that can suck in those days, for there shall be great distress in the land and wrath upon the people, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles. And this is the key verse right here. Until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. And when was that? You're talking about May 14th, 1948, or more concisely, after the 6-Day War in 67, I believe it was. 66 or 67. Don't quote me on that. I believe it's 67. When they threw the Jordanians out of Jerusalem. So until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. That's when they were not trodden down anymore of the Gentiles. Israel is one nation now. The sticks are together, north and south, the 10 northern tribes and the 2 southern tribes. They're together. They're one nation. And then there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and the stars, and upon earth distress of nations with perplexity. Why? Whose is the land? That's the question. Whose is the land? 2 states, 1 state. Everybody get their own state. Can we live together? Boom, boom, boom. Distress of nations with perplexity. The sea and the waves roaring. And that's been happening. Not the literal seas and the waves. These people are crazy, man. What they did October 7th and what's happening now in Gaza, it's crazy. Men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. For the powers of heaven shall be shaken. This is all God's doing. He's doing it all. And then when you go, we can't do it now, but when you look at Ezekiel 35, 36, 37, and 38, it talks about all of this. That's all future stuff. And then after Ezekiel 38, they shall see the Son of Man coming in cloud with power and great glory. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. The gospel is in the stars. That's what I think that means. Look up and lift your heads and look at the stars, because the gospel is in the stars. And you'd have to go to Ezekiel 38 to find out what's going to happen there. And we can't do that right now. So we're just going to take a moment of silence. Whew, thank you, God, for all of these words, for the abomination, for the desolation. We know that you're doing everything, so we don't have to worry. Somebody said it the other day, worry is praying to the devil. I like that. I'm going to remember that. I'll probably put it on a t-shirt. Worry is a prayer to the devil. So we don't worry. We know that you're doing everything. We love you. We give you all the honor, praise, and glory. We do everything in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you. Good stuff.
Amen. Thank you, John.
Wow. Good stuff. I love it. Abomination. Desolation. Oh, I forgot to hit that stop recording button. Oh, man. Where is it? Where is it? Did I stop? Record meetings. I saw the thing up there. I don't know if we stopped recording though. Is this it? This call is being recorded. Okay. Thank you, God. Recording. Stop recording. Stop recording this meeting. How many times do I have to hit this?